Thanks, Ryan. Hopefully this will come up. Yes, there we go. So I felt kind of bad starting, and can I actually get my slides switched over? Brilliant. I actually felt kind of bad by putting 2 marketing slides up, but with this really fancy microphone, I think I'm in a late night infomercial, so I think we're going to be good. So I just wanted to talk to you guys about the lessons learned that we have kind of run across running a number of WordPress sites at scale at Microsoft. How many people were thinking, what's Microsoft doing at a WordPress conference? Couple? Actually, it's not even half the room, so awesome. But you can see a number of different sites in the background here. We actually are running the Office blogs, the Windows blog, the Azure blog itself, and a couple of other properties like the Microsoft News Center. All of these properties are getting millions of hits per day, and we're running them all within Azure. So as much as I'd love to take credit, as Ryan said, that I'm the program manager of the cloud at Microsoft, I'm one tiny little program manager that works on the PHP stack within Azure App Service, which is a really simple service to get sites up and running within the cloud environment, so they're massively scalable. Before I really started into my talk, because there are some people that were like, what's Microsoft doing here? I just wanted to give a quick thing on some of the recent work that we've been doing in the open source space, or becoming more broadly known across other device platforms. So we've actually gone out and created a lot of Microsoft Office projects, or the product, and it's running on iOS and Android. Microsoft loves Linux, so we actually have 4 different distributions of Linux sitting up in our cloud platform today. We've jumped on board and have supported Docker and Google's Kubernetes project, which is kind of an infrastructure Docker container management platform. And we have a lot of different things that are going on. I'm not too sure if these are the most recent numbers, but 20% of the workloads that are running within IaaS within Azure is Linux, which is really exciting to see. And we have a lot of people supporting open source on our platform. So some of the contributions that we've made to the WordPress community, we have an Azure storage plugin for WordPress, which enables you to offload a lot of the static files that you have sitting within your WordPress site. And what this does is it takes away all of those static assets that could really be loaded anywhere, and lets the web server do what it's good at, which is serving dynamic pages. We've also have a Bing translator and a persistent database connection updater. This was actually one of the things that we noticed when we started to run WordPress at scale is when you start to open and close a whole bunch of database connections all at once, it takes a lot of time. So if you do use connection pooling, it actually becomes a great benefit. And we also have an Active Directory plugin coming soon, which will help you, enable single sign-on within your application. So I wanted to take a quick little peek of what Azure is all up. And basically, I had to put the slide in here. It's a little bit of marketing stuff. But basically, it says we're no longer the wooden puppet. We're now a real human being. And it's time to start paying attention to Azure in terms of your cloud hosting environment. The numbers kind of speak for themselves. I hope that you try it. You can actually go to try.azure websites today and talk and kind of go through what I'm going to be talking about as I'm talking about it. So Azure All Up is a relatively large story. We have a lot of different things. We're going to be talking about this little piece in particular today, and a couple of the pieces below. So we have Redis, which enables us to scale our caching solution. We have Azure Storage, that allows us to move all those assets off, as I talked about earlier. And then we have App Service, which is a great place to go and host your WordPress applications. So we have 21 regions across the world. How many people are hosting things in multiple data centers today? A few people. Awesome. So we actually, for a number of our sites, are running in 2 separate regions. So we have West US and East US set up. But we also have servers available in Europe and Asia, Australia, and South America. So if you have your customers sitting in those regions, we have the ability to be there and right close up to who you're looking to target with your sites. One more eye candy slide about all the different open source stuff that's running in Azure. WordPress is there and represented very well. There we go. So Azure App Service is one integrated offering. So we just kind of launched this new thing, and it's a kind of a collaboration of a whole bunch of different areas that we have been looking at over the past couple of years. So we have web app, which is where I'm talking about right now. We have mobile applications that allow you to go and build mobile apps that integrate with iOS or Android. Logic applications that kind of add workflow to the mix, and then API apps, which is kind of like a microservices service that allows you to generate a whole bunch of APIs and push them out there for you to use. Azure Web App in particular, there's a whole bunch of great features that we have to enable you to do a whole bunch of great things. That's a great blanketed statement, Corey. Well, basically what we enable you to do here is we have a number of things like web jobs that can do background tasks. So additional cron that you can move off, maybe do some of your own maintenance tasks off on another machine so it's not affecting your main website. We have deployment slots, which allows you to have multiple staging environments where you can swap between those environments to be able to promote your code from one environment to the next. That's a really interesting thing. One of the main things that we worry about when running WordPress at scale is the ability to auto-scale the sites. So we may start off with maybe 3 to 5 servers serving up for a regular load of traffic, but as that traffic starts to spin up, we go, okay, we need a lot more servers on this, and that 3 servers quickly turns into 5, 10, 15, or 20. And then we also have the ability to auto-heal those servers. So if we start to notice there's something's going wrong, we're getting a whole bunch of requests that are failing, we can go and restart the server and make sure that it's starting to get back online and serving requests a lot quicker instead of sitting there in a bad state. So a quick demo, I'm just going to switch over to a different browser here. And this is our brand new portal. Ignore the Microsoft internal, it's because I'm logged in with my corporate credentials. Everything that you see here should be in the public. And you can go in here and click on the new tab. And we have a couple different things recent. I'm playing around with the scalable WordPress that we have available, and this sets it up with a brand new database that's scaled up to a level that you would need for a production system. It also moves straight into the higher tier servers that we have. And it kind of gets you going where you need to. So we've customized WordPress a little bit where we're installing some plugins for you like the Azure Storage plugin and the persistent connection updates. So that's really where you can go and move along and really start to lean towards building a high scale site. We also have WordPress. So if you wanted to go and look at building a WordPress site to win one of those fancy little PHP plushies out there, you can come in here and hit WordPress. Now, this is recent stuff that I've done. So to actually get in there, you can go to web and mobile, click on web app, and deploy your own code from WordPress.org. Or you can use our marketplace, which allows you to choose from a whole bunch of different open source projects that are out there. So we have our scalable WordPress here, or you can search, globally for WordPress and just select something else. Now, I also have an environment sitting up and running here just to kind of give you a quick glance of what's going on in the background. By default, we give you some monitoring information, all the requests that are coming through, the different server logs that you have available to you. In here, we have the pricing tiers. So you can see I'm running on medium instances. So this is like 2 cores and 7 gigs of RAM, I believe. That allows you to kind of go out and do everything. We give you an estimate of what your spend is going to be. Some of the different operations you can do. We actually have a console directly in the portal, so you can go and execute some command line commands directly against your site. For deployment, I've set up Git integration. I could also do this from GitHub, Bitbucket, whatever. And these are the deployment slots I talked about. So I can actually set up like my production slot, but also have a staging or development slot for us to go out and modify the code for the eventual deployment into our production slot. There's tons of things to do. I don't want to cover through too much of this because I only have 30 minutes to tell you about what's really going on. So what I would suggest is if you create an account, kind of go and scroll through the settings area that you see here that will cover a lot of this stuff later points in my talk. So I talked about the gallery. This is a great place to get going with some of your apps. We pre-install things for you. You can still get into them, pull them down from the remote server, start banging around on the code, and deploy it back up to your environment in Azure. There we go. So for WordPress specifically, we can deploy it from WordPress in seconds. Use the scalable WordPress to go and have that great starting point where our third-party provider for MySQL, ClearDB, provides you with a great database where you can go and store everything. We start everything off with Azure Storage in place, so it creates a storage account for you, hooks the plugin up, enables it, and everything is moving off to storage directly from Go. One of the big things that we really came across was caching. How many people are using some sort of object cache story today? Should basically be everyone. All right. So one of the things that we noticed is we are actually using a caching solution. I'm not going to name names. And we were going against WinCache. But the interesting thing about WinCache is that's fine if you're using a single machine. You know, one box, one place for cache to go. We have to remember, we're scaling this out to 10, maybe 20 machines. How do you keep a consistent story in your WordPress site when you're across all those machines? So our solution is to go and stand up a Redis server, which we actually use the Redis plugin for. We also have a functionality for Memcache shim. So if your site's already using Memcache, we have a shim layer that sits within web app that will proxy your calls directly into our Redis cache for you, and there's no need to change the protocol below there. And you have the ability to kind of support your site with a PHP analyzer that we've built in-house. We get a lot of information back from ClearDB via their APIs to tell you how your database is doing, the number of people that are connected, everything that's going on. And then we also have this new offering that Zen's put together and is usually part of their Zen server product. They've decoupled that and actually put it into Azure for everyone to take care of it. And basically what that goes through is, I'll get into that later, but please check out our booth in the expo hall and kind of take a live look at what's going on, or quickly run through the tutorial that we have to get it set up. So some of the things that we've also played around with here is adding CDN, which is a really important thing, especially on that storage account. So you can distribute all of those static files out to different places around the world. And we added a couple of different Azure services as well. So this is kind of the RE chart of what we've done, where at the bottom we have 2 SQL databases, and they have an active replica between 2 different regions. On top of that, we're using cache and a storage account for all the static access. Then we have our website in there, which is actually our web app service. And then we can also go and add CDN to that. But I said I've worked in 2 different regions. So I have this one area where I have one site in my west region. I have one in the east region. How do I actually balance traffic between those 2? We have a product called Traffic Manager that will do the intelligent routing for you. So you can say performance-based routing. Whoever's coming to my site, I can say, okay, based on the best ping time, route them to this location or that location. We also do failovers, so you can keep everything centralized in one region and have the secondary region pop online if your primary region goes down. So just to give a quick demo of the multi-region. So this is the Traffic Manager product. I know, different portal. New fancy portal. Old, still kind of fancy portal. But basically in here we can go and manage our endpoints. And you can see that I have both my east data center and my west data center available within here. And then if I go and configure here, I actually have my build demo wp2014.trafficmanager.net. And this is where I would actually create a CNAME to my domain. It comes into this Traffic Manager service and then routes it to the appropriate server. So if I were to copy this here, and go into the site, we get our WordPress site. But sitting behind that are 2 separate locations. And I can go into the location in the east here, go into one of my talks. We use this a lot. There's like 7,000 comments in here. This is actually making me kind of scared. But what we can do is we can go and add a brand new comment in at the bottom, and we'll see it replicate to the other side of our other site. And if the internet's not going to cooperate, I'm going to move on really quickly. There we go. I know, great demo. Create a post. We can comment. It's awesome. And I'm bored. All right. So what we can do, though, is if you go off to that traffic managed site, create a comment yourself. This is why it's public. Live demos. So go off to the traffic managed site. I can pull up the URL again if you want. So build demo wp2014.trafficmanager.net. Go out, and then you can hit one or other of the sites. So build-2014-wp.west.azurewebsites.net. Now I'm wishing I made short URLs for this. Going back to my presentation, we're going to look at diagnosing some issues. So I have a couple of options available to me when trying to diagnose my site. Like I mentioned, we have the support portal, which is something that we brewed in-house. And this is kind of exciting. So one of the engines that really drives this platform is something called Project Hoodoo. This is an open source project, and it's been open source since its conception. And basically, this drives the great things that this platform has to offer. The Git integration, we can actually go into a debug console right here, where I basically have a terminal sitting right on the web that gives me access right into my website. If that doesn't quite get you going, we also have command line tools that do the exact same thing. And I can go and say, log me in. And it's essentially, and I say essentially, creating an SSH connection to that machine. But it's not an actual fact. We have an endpoint there. But as you can see here, I'm executing against dhome. And I was smart, and I went and added a WP CLI extension to my web app. So I can actually go here and type WP, and you'll see the help file come up for the WP CLI. And this allows me to work on my local machine and still take advantage of all the tools that I'm used to directly against my instance in the cloud. So that's exciting. So you also have that in the web version. So if you want to go on your iPad or something along those lines, type away the commands, you have the ability to do so. But we also have the support site, and the support site's really cool. If you go in, we have both a log analyzer as well as the runtime analyzer, which basically batches up all of the different issues that you may have. So if you see like a socket hanging, that's right out there, and it probably has something to do with losing a connection to your database. If anything's taking a significantly long amount of time, like things loading from the internet, you have the ability to go and diagnose what's actually going on within your product as well. So that's in the Analyze tab here. If we go into Settings, does anyone have the Jeopardy sound queued up? Okay. So we have the PHP logs and PHP process report. And those are the two really awesome things that you can look at. I mentioned earlier about the Autoheal. That's in the mitigate section here. And you can go and turn this on and then say, I have a certain number of requests that I want to come through my site before I go and recycle the entire thing. If I get a particular status code, so like 500, things are just going terribly wrong, restart my site. Slow requests. And then you can choose an action, which is mostly like recycle or log some sort of error. But we also have this really awesome partnership with Zend. And this is where Zray really comes to light. And it's a very, very powerful tool. So I'm just going to pop back over. And this is the site that I set up really quickly. It took me about 5 minutes because I'm a pro at this. It will take you about 10. It's really simple to do. All you do is you create a brand new WordPress site, like I just described earlier, and go and add the Zray extension. We have great details online on how to do that. But basically, once you have that installed, you have things like the execution time. What's actually taking the largest amount of time of my page load? Is it executing the PHP statements? Is it going off to my database? You can look at all the different database calls that you're making. Or the functions that are getting called and looking at the execution time from them. And if that doesn't do quite enough for you, there's some great deep integration directly into WordPress that's actually going to go through, what is your object cache doing? Are your plugins taking a long time? Are your themes maybe a culprit as to, slow page load times? We also have, the hooks and cron operations that may account to it. So this is actually a really interesting tool because we had one of the sites that I managed personally, not managed personally, but one of the accounts that I'm assigned to internally have some really wonky cron execution where it was just sitting there and cycling all the time. So this would have been really helpful for me to help diagnose that issue. So I'm really looking forward to diagnosing it with this a little bit later on. You can also go into the back-end side of this. So like I mentioned, there's that CUDA console. This is the back side of that really cool plugin that gets injected into the public part of your feed. I'm unauthorized. No. Quick, log me in. That's a very nerve-wracking time where you're like, am I typing my password in the password box or is it going into this email box? All right, so if we just go and add send server to the end of this, we're back in business. Perfect. All right, so the cool thing is there's a couple different features, and unfortunately right now we're in preview mode, so everything's free and lovely and amazing, with the exception of free means disabled features. But there's this great thing called Zray Live, and basically what it will allow you to do when you can go and get the standard version of this is the ability to go and enable this for mobile devices. So it actually goes and investigates into your Ajax calls, and you can plug in, say, your iPhone or an iPad and look at all the transactions coming from the app straight into here. And that's a really powerful kind of tool. We also have the ability to, if you don't want your diagnostic information to be shown off to the world, which me personally, I don't want that, you can go in and enable secured mode. And basically what that does is it generates an access token for you that you can put into the header of your request, and then it only makes that visible for you. So that's pretty exciting. You also have a number of settings sitting at the bottom here where if you want to kind of personalize your experience with the tool, maybe turn off certain features or increase the amount of details that you get back, you can go into the settings panel and do this as well. Right. So I would go check this out. If you are more than just a WordPress developer, because I know a lot of people have multiple hats. I typically wear just this hat, but I do have a couple extra. You can also use this with Drupal, Magento, Zen Framework, Symfony, and Laravel, which is pretty powerful. I hear there's also a Joomla plugin as well. And they're actually interested, Zen's interested in seeing community members going and contributing a lot of this, or making these tools better by contributing back to the projects. There we go. And basically, that kind of cycles everything to a close. I wanted to leave a little bit of time for questions. I'm assuming I can do that. Oh, all right. So if you want to ask me a question, I would suggest meeting me out at the booth. But I do have one more thing that I want to show you, just so you're aware. This is kind of the architecture of our service. So the thing that happens when you go into Azure Web App is you come through the Azure load balancers, and it goes into this nice big pool of servers. And there's two states, and this is important. There's a cold state, which means your site is not in memory whatsoever, and we've spun it down because there's been no traffic to it. So that means there might be a certain amount of time where you're taking a few seconds to load up. If this is the case for your site, there's this awesome feature called Always On. Always On will stop your site from going into a cold state. So it will always be loaded up in memory. You can keep your pool of servers ready to go, and you're good to access it. The other point I want to talk about is the file server. So we actually dog food a good portion of our platform in building out the web app service. So we're using blob storage to be able to go and host all your files in a single location, and then we attach to all your servers via a network-based drive. So that's how we are able to go and spin up countless numbers of servers for you very, very quickly. There are some, downsides of this, which isn't too bad because that's why you're relying on some of the caching techniques with Redis or WinCache, depending on how you want to mix that all together. But that's basically all I wanted to cover. So I appreciate you coming out and joining me for this talk, and looking forward to meeting you in the hallway later on this afternoon.